Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are connecting from around the world. Thank you so much for joining our first ever Guest Experience Benchmark live webinar. So, for those of you who might know our Guest Experience Benchmark reports, these are reports that come out from Reviewpro Reputation, part of Shiji Group, on a quarterly basis and a yearly basis to really bring hoteliers around the world, whether you're customers of Reviewpro or not, really some deep insights and takeaways from how the online reputation and the guest experience is performing around the world. So I'm very excited because it's the first time that we actually bring this live, where we can deep dive together in the next 30 minutes on the key highlights of the report of Q2. So just to welcome everyone and remind you the purpose of today's 30-minute session, it's really to dive deep into the key highlights, the key takeaways of the findings of our Q2 Guest Experience Benchmark Report. And with me today, of course, is Bruno Saragat, the mastermind behind these reports. Good morning, Bruno.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone.
And Bruno, we were just discussing it yesterday, actually, in our rehearsal. How many editions have there now been of the benchmark?
I think this is the 11th edition. So
The 11th,
okay.
Yes. Wow. So the 11th edition, and that includes quarterly reports and 2 or 3 yearly ones as well?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
yes.
Perfect. And yeah, I think between all the reports we've done so far, we have about 6,000 downloads, you mentioned?
Exactly, yes, more than 6,000. Wow. So
it's very exciting, I think, to see and to continuously see that our customers and non-customers are really appreciating the data, because it's not just good to know how you're performing at your hotels, at your brands, and of course your competitors, but what about your whole region? Whether you're in APAC, whether you're in the Americas, whether you are in Europe, it's just good to know, how is my brand, how are my hotels in these regions comparing with the regional statistics, the regional averages for guest experience. So
exactly.
Without further ado, let's jump into it. Otherwise, my introductions get very long. For anyone that doesn't know me yet, my name is Jessica Kurtz. I am Global Product Ambassador here at Reviewpro Reputation. And as I mentioned, I'm here with Bruno today, who prepares these unbelievable reports analyzing 10 million reviews on a quarterly basis. So very exciting to jump into this. If you do have questions or comments, please drop them in the chat. We might pop some of those questions up live. And if not, we will take a look at those at the end of the 30 minutes. Okay. If you need to leave by any chance and it gets a little bit longer because we are really getting into the interesting data, then just also remember you will get the recording at the end. Okay, so please feel free to drop any comments or questions you might have. So Bruno, I know we wanted to start right away with global review index evolution over the last 6 years. But just before I hand it over to you, just to remind everyone, I hope all of our customers online are very familiar with GRI and Global Review Index. But just a reminder for everyone, especially anyone connected today that is not currently a Reviewpro customer. The Global Review Index is our own metric at Reviewpro, which is now, of course, really renowned worldwide. And it is our guest experience, our online reputation score. And the way the GRI works is it's an algorithm based on various different factors of the reviews that each of your hotels receive. But instead of just being a simple average, we really wanted to make sure that this algorithm can emulate the potential guest experience when they are reviewing your online reputation. So what does that mean? If I'm planning to, travel to your hotel, I'm coming to your city, and I look at your hotel online on different review sources, what is the impact I'm getting? What am I perceiving? When I have my credit card in hand, ready to book your hotel or your competitors, which one am I going to lean more towards based on your online presence? And these are the factors that go into the algorithm for the Global Review Index or the GRI. So it's a score out of 100. And for example, one of the factors that we really put emphasis on is the recency of the reviews. If we just did an average of all the scores and of all your reviews over the last year or 6 months, it's not really giving you a perception of what your potential guests are perceiving when they come to read your online reviews. Because they're not going to the 10th page on Google, they're not going to the 15th page on booking.com to see what guests were saying 6 months ago. We all know, and I think everyone here today is also a traveler. You know, I'm a traveler myself, and I think every person in the room enjoys traveling as well. And if you're like me, we do spend time also reading online reviews, and we don't go read the ones from 6 months ago, right? If I'm traveling next week, I want to know what the most recent guests had to say about that Airbnb or that hotel. So just to give that little introduction, but I know, Bruno, you wanted to share kind of what is the main takeaway from how we've seen, now that we know what the Global Review Index is for hotels and the importance, what's the main takeaway of what has happened in the last 6 years?
Well, yes, the major takeaway, as you can see, is that in the pre-pandemic period, we had a clear kind of invisible ceiling at around 86.5. If you look at 2019, you see that there were some clear seasonal trend, but the GRI was stable, so we're kind of moving alongside the 86.5 threshold. Then, of course, pandemic hit, and we have a downturn that hit the rock bottom, 83.9. And then right after peak season in the Northern Hemisphere, so September 2022, the GRI had a trend reversal, which is really surprising to see that is still ongoing after 3 years, which is impressive. And for the first time, we have been able to be consistently above this sort of threshold of 86.5, which is a testament to the quality that now the hotel have been able to, in a way, display and put to the test on a daily basis. So in May of this year, we finally reached 87, which is a huge result in global terms. Really, really impressive.
Wow. No, that's really, really nice to see. So I think, you know, we've reached not only pre-pandemic Global Review Index, but also, you know, even higher than that. And
Yeah,
we all
exactly.
know, if everyone here has been in hospitality for, you know, various years, of course, through the pandemic, the big resignation, the silent, you know, a lot of people were leaving hospitality. They were finding other types of jobs. And after the pandemic, I mean, that's what we would hear from customers. It was really hard to retain that good talent after pandemic when hotels reopened after 2-3 years in certain regions. So once again, thank you, Bruno, because I think to really see globally the online reputation and the perception of guests go from 83.9 to 87 is really a testament to the efforts, like you said, of hoteliers around the world, and reading the guest feedback, and most importantly, taking action on it, right? Because I think the only thing that makes hotels, or the main thing that makes hotels go from an 83.9 back to an 87, is by taking action on what guests are seeing.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's really nice. Perfect. So let's move on to some global review volume, actually. So in the previous slide, we were looking at the actual scores. What are they saying? You know, are they happy or unhappy? But what do we see with volume in the past 3 years?
Here we can tell a different story, because as you see, like the kind of trend reversal happened a lot earlier in 2022 than what we said for the GRI. And then we had sort of climbing up until peak season 2023, when we hit 1.4 million reviews in our sample, but we never been able to reach this level afterwards. So what has changed is a kind of a number of factors. One of them is, of course, the clampdown on fake reviews that some of the biggest sources have been able to, in a way, put forward. And the other one is probably a bit of a kind of feedback fatigue, given that also the major sources have been able to ask this micro feedback that probably are making it a bit more difficult to also post a review. So this is an effect that is changing how can I say, a divergence between the tourist arrival that we see that are being kept increasing year over year, just right after pandemic, and the volume of reviews which not following the same trend, which is very interesting. And also it is important to take notice of that. because feedback is so important, as you said, in order to improve is the best way. So we need to be careful when we use this powerful tool.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I think one of the main things you pointed out that I just want to, reiterate to everyone is the big fight on fake reviews. I think depending if you're in certain regions or not, certain regions were more affected. I know I was working with the Latin America market for a while. They were quite affected, other regions as well. But I just want to make sure that we know that quality over quantity, right? So of course we see sometimes some trend reversals, but before we say, oh my God, I'm losing many review volume, were a lot of them fake? Were all of them authentic? Because we want the ones from real guests that stayed at your properties, right? So not sure if everyone here is aware, but I think some of the big players in the game, like Booking.com, TripAdvisor, Google, got together and actually said, how can we tackle this fake review problem together? What can we do? How can we increase our security, our measures to make sure that we can really put more barriers about who leaves reviews and really avoid those fake ones? So what are we expecting for the next quarters? I mean, it's hard to tell, but are you thinking it's going to go back up or?
I think it's going to go back up, but not probably at the 2023 level. Probably will be close to 2024 level, because of course we are going into peak season. We are already in peak season for the Northern Hemisphere. So we will see later on that this is a huge trend change when it comes to Europe and North America. We will see.
Yeah, so I think I'm really curious about the Q3 report, because that will include, at least for Europe and many other regions, the high season, right? So we will see where this goes. So let's stay tuned for, I think it'll come out then in June, July, August. So September, October, the next report. Perfect. Okay, that's very interesting for reviews. If anyone has questions or comments, please drop them in the chat. I think this is really interesting to see where this is going. I'm curious just from your comments as well, how you're seeing it for your hotels, and also super interesting to see what's coming in the future. And just a reminder to everyone as well that there's other ways to collect valuable feedback, right? We love online reputation because of course it gives us an image for all our potential guests. But just in case you are customers here and you have our surveys, you know how valuable those are as well to collect additional, more specific feedback, right? Because with online reviews, you're letting the guest ultimately decide what they want to share about. But with the surveys, if you are looking for additional ways to get feedback on how to improve, don't forget about our strong survey solution as well. So let me move on then here. Share of reviews per source. So I think for me, this is one of the most interesting. I love these graphs. We can see on the very left globally, Booking.com still taking the absolute lead, although Google coming, strong behind. But Bruno, actually, I'll let you talk a bit about what are these trends down here and what are we seeing for the different regions?
What is surprising here to see is just like what is happening to Google. As we said, Google was part of these association of big review sites that were kind of reviewing their way of posting reviews, and of course the clampdown on fake reviews. But now Google is growing, and is growing pretty quickly, and now is gaining market share. But as you can see, there are differences in the different regions. The European market is clearly dominated by the three biggest review sites like Booking.com, Google, and TripAdvisor. While there is a lot more variability in Asia and North America, that is surprising and interesting to see, because the Asia market is by far the most variable. And North America, again, is instead dominated by Expedia and Hotels.com, so the Expedia Hotels.com group. But Google is gaining market share everywhere. And whilst the other are, in a way, losing, as you can see, a little bit, but for Expedia and Ctrip and Trip.com. So really interesting to see this huge variability. We didn't put other markets like Middle East, which is very close to what Europe would look like, and also the Oceania market. Again, Oceania market looks like the European market. Therefore, Asia and North America, in a way, stand out in terms of huge divergence of review sources.
Thank you so much. I think what's very interesting for me, Bruno, every time as well, is how different Europe is from the other regions in terms
Yeah.
of like we were saying, this looks more like a pizza pie. This one, not so much. So it's interesting to see how in different markets, there's more of a share of the review sources, whereas Europe, is so 60, 59, and, 79%, almost 80% of Europe reviews come from Booking and Google. And for everyone here today, the reason this is important to bring up is because you might be thinking, what's your strategy with review sources? Where do you want to lean towards your guests, or where do you want to ask them to leave reviews? And, what is kind of your management response strategy? Do you have time and resources to respond for all the sources? So yeah, I think this is really good to keep an eye on. I love looking at these on a quarterly basis. And for me, another big takeaway is Google. Unbelievable to see a 2.7 increase globally when they're clamping down so hard on fake reviews. So I think it's so nice to see everything else they're doing. And I was talking about it in a previous webinar, if anyone was there for the booking.com one, but personally, I'm a big review writer because I think it's weird working at Reviewpro for 5 years and not writing reviews everywhere I go. But every time I go into Google, it's a different experience. They keep adding things every month of how to make it more engaging. They ask you specific questions, did you dine inside or outside? Is it wheelchair accessible? Are there vegetarian options? Do you want to add photos? When I get off the bus in Barcelona, because I use Google Maps, it says, how crowded was it? And the other day I took a train, and Google Maps, I don't know if anyone has seen this, told me which cart to go into for the fastest transfer when I get to the next place. So anyway, I just think these initiatives are really exciting. So let's keep an eye on where this is going. But of course, this is one of the most interesting. Everyone is always talking about response time to reviews. What's a good response time? What should we focus on? But for me, just a huge kudos to everyone here in the room, because obviously I'll let Bruno speak, but look at what we've seen over the last 2 years of how we've really, really improved our response time around the world.
No, definitely. This is one of the most impressive trends that we have been able to witness over the past 5 years. Just remember that pre-pandemic, we had an average time of response that was hovering around 10 days, 11 days. And now, thanks to the use of artificial intelligence, you can clearly see that it went down to 3.2 days. And the trend is clear for the 3-star, for the 4-star, and for the 5-star as well. What is happening right now, this is the reason why we put both Q1 2025 and Q2, is that now the improvement is, of course, slowing down, because it is a sort of physiological limit to the ability to reply to many reviews. Also, thanks to the use of artificial intelligence, that can be improved up to a certain point. And why you see that year after year we add some improvement, if you look at quarter after quarter, we see that pretty much is sitting at the same level, 3.1, 3.2 days. But again, it is a huge improvement to just a few years ago. And then again, a testament, as Jessica said, to the impressive work that the hotel are doing in order to improve the usage of feedback and kind of reply to the guest feedback in order to make it more valuable, to make sense of what they are saying, and to reward the reviewer. We heard you and we want to get back to you as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I think, of course, also AI, right? We've talked about it. But with our AI review response as well, or if you're not using Reviewpro, you have other AI tools. I'm sure that one point or another, your team or yourself are using AI to write these responses. This is where I always really want to give the message: use AI, leverage it, but make it your ally and not your replacement. I feel like I came up with this quote earlier this year and I'm sticking to it. I love it. Because it really should be like that. AI should not replace everything we're doing, but we should lean on it so that we can focus on the things that will bring more value, right? So if I can answer reviews in a much quicker way, not losing brand standards, not losing quality, then maybe I can take more time analyzing the feedback in the semantics section and preparing plans of action to make improvements. So for me, this is unbelievable. I'm very curious in the next 2 quarters or year if we're really going to drop under 3 days, because I still think 72 hours is very good.
Exactly.
Okay, departmental scores. So just a reminder for everyone, in Reviewpro, we collect departmental scores as well, besides just the Global Review Index, because various sources also allow your guests to leave specific scores for certain departments. This is not semantics. This is not the text. I just want to point that out. This is the scores that they give to certain departments, but it's always good to have this to compare to my Global Review Index, because this is where you can see, okay, which one of these are actually bringing my online reputation down versus up. So, Bruno, I think what we're going to compare here is Q1 of this year with Q1 of last
Yes,
year. What were
it's
the big change? It all looks really, for me, most of it looks trending up.
no, exactly. It is. It is. We wanted to start with Q1 in 2025 against Q1 2024 for you to see exactly how massive was the improvement among cleanliness and room, which of course are very important factors, although indirect factors in determining the rise of the GRI. These sort of trends follow a seasonality, seasonal kind of change, and during shoulder season, we expect them to grow. So that is exactly in line for Q1. And you see that for service, for the 5 stars, cleanliness and room were growing very, very quickly. But Jessica, if you move over to Q2, you see that we expect a sort of positive trend, an ongoing positive trend. And instead, for cleanliness and room, we start seeing a sort of trend reversal, which is something we might expect during peak season, because during peak season, we have a higher occupancy rate, the operatives are under pressure, and sometimes cleanliness is not following up the same procedures or not keeping up with the pace at which they should be replacing or working on the rooms, or at the same time, more guests may complain about the room as well. And instead, we saw clearly a beginning of a trend reversal for 3, 4, and 5 star starting in Q2. So, as you said, again, it's going to be very interesting to see what will happen in Q3, because this is what we may expect in Q3 happening one quarter before. It is an interesting trend reversal, which also may affect in the future the GRI, of course. So Q3 again will be really, really interesting to take a look at.
Very cool. So maybe when we get together in Q3, we can do Q1, Q2, Q3, and see how
Yeah,
the three of
exactly.
them.
We can see
That would
what.
be
Yeah,
very,
yeah,
very interesting.
exactly.
As I said to everyone, keep an eye if you have Reviewpro on your departmental scores. They're collected from different sources. Sometimes it's not as much data as the Global Review Index, because not every review source asks the guests this, but it's a really good indicator, complementary to our semantics. I always want to say that. This is good to get an idea, but then please go analyze your semantic analysis to know what specifically about cleanliness, which areas of the service, what parts of the room, and then you can really start digging deeper and making those improvements.
Definitely, yes.
Great. So review data by region now, just a few slides on region. So we talked about volume earlier, but this is specific Europe versus North America. What's the key takeaway and difference here?
Here you see we have put the 2 most important markets in the world. The European market, which, as you can see by looking at the blue shading, was losing review volume, notwithstanding the fact that GRI was growing, and something completely different for North America. North America was growing fast, plus 7%, if benchmark against 2 years ago. And then we had, in 2025, the new USA administration, change in policies, and you can see that the heavy seasonal trend that you have in the USA and Canada, of course, did a trend reversal, quite impressive trend reversal. And instead of the expected +5, +6, we have -3. And this is in line with which we had for the tourist arrival forecast. It was forecast to be +9%. It will be probably less, probably -5, -9%. And that is really interesting to see how this is also affecting the review volume, which of course are a proxy of the occupancy rate. So whilst Europe is following the same trend, a kind of slowdown in terms of review volume generated but a increase in tourist arrival. Here in North America, we have the same trend is affecting both tourist arrival and review volume, of course.
Very interesting. I mean, to see this go up 7.3 and then down 3%,
Yes,
once again, it makes me interested in
impressive.
seeing what's going to come in Q3. But I think it's interesting what you say about the big, the arrivals, the tourist travel versus the
Yeah.
decline in reviews. I really think a big part is the fake reviews, but also maybe people just have less time, less attention span, and maybe reviews, are not the biggest priority for them, which is why it's important to continue finding ways to capture those reviews, to talk about them and a good experience. Obviously, each of our clients are different. The ultra luxury hotels are not going to sit there at front desk and say, if you liked it, please, scan this QR code for a review. But it is part of the practice of many hotels, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Or if anyone knows about our collection programs, at the end of the survey, to be able to say, click on this link and go directly to leave us a review. So there's always ways to continue capturing that. But I think the data from the surveys is equally key, and we'll get there in a bit. Okay, so categories impacting the Global Review Index. For anyone that isn't aware of these, this does come from our semantics section of Reviewpro. And basically what we're saying here is, you know what your Global Review Index score is, but there's no way to improve it or know why it is improving or declining without knowing what parts of the experience are your guests talking about in a positive or negative way, right? So we have positive, obviously, in green and negative in red. But for the report, what I love, Bruno, that you put together is globally versus regionally. It's interesting to see sometimes the categories are the same, but well, you'll talk about it. The scores change a bit. So
Yeah,
what did we see in
exactly.
Q2?
Exactly. So if you look at this chart, you can see clearly that the major difference is what happens in North America, because in North America we have a huge negative effect that is driven by the room, a minus 3.3 points. So in terms of statistical analysis, we can say that it is a huge kind of effect. The room is pulling down the GRI, which is North America is catching up with Europe. And Europe is by far less affected by room. And also you see that in Europe, cleanliness, which usually is the second most negatively affecting cause, is not the second one, but is establishment. So cleanliness has been dealt with a lot better in Europe than probably in any other market in the world. But it is impressive to see how the North American market is by far in a league of itself in terms of negatively being negatively affected by the room. If you look at the positive side, you see that pretty much they all, in a way, cluster together. The difference is not that big. Experience is always there, staff is always there, but the positive effect is pretty much of the same magnitude all over the places. So in every region, whichever region you look at, is the same. The difference is in the negative one, and it's a big, big difference. So I wanted to highlight this in order for you all to understand how important it is to take care of the priorities and improve, because then the GRI will grow even faster.
Thank you so much, Bruno. I think that's exactly the good point. For example, the US, and maybe it also has to do with the travelers. Maybe the perception of what's important for them on a trip also changes around the world, right? So maybe the US travelers, because I think a lot of US travelers travel within the US, maybe they put a lot of emphasis on that room and that cleanliness. But if hotels in North America can really focus on room and cleanliness, so if you're listening to the recording, because I think you're not up at 3 a.m. to listen to us speak, hopefully you are, but if not, you get to the recording. If you really focus your semantics on digging deep on room and cleanliness, then there can really be a 5-point improvement in the Global Review Index, and that's great.
Absolutely.
Before we continue, I just want to say, I think we were very optimistic with the 30 minutes. If you do need to go, because I think we promoted 30 minutes, you'll get the recording. If not, it won't be more than 15 minutes. So next time we know to promote a 45-minute webinar. So thank you so much. If you're willing to stick around, we are going to get to all of those good questions, but just wanted to be conscious of your time and if you had other appointments to attend. Great. So, actually, I think there's only 3 slides left then if we're already at the survey one, and then we'll get to the questions. So just a quick thing that I want to point out, and a big kudos to Bruno as well, is, it's already a lot of work to put this report together. It's analyzing millions of reviews. It takes about the whole quarter to prepare, and you don't really have that time because you can't really talk about results until the end of that quarter. So, Bruno, huge kudos to you already on that. But even further, we always want to make sure we're listening to our customer feedback. Obviously, we cannot always implement every idea you have because, it would be very, very challenging. But when we receive feedback that we think this actually, makes a lot of sense and we can do it, then we always do that. And what I'm referring to now is we heard a lot of feedback that you wanted guest survey results in this report. So obviously it's easier for us to collect online review data because it's public, but we are now making the extra effort in our reports to put a few slides on guest survey results, and it has been really appreciated by our customers. So Bruno, thank you. And also to everyone there, thank you for the feedback, because we continue to learn and grow together. And being able to share survey results, which is something so private, let's say, everyone only has their survey results, is really good to be able to benchmark around the world. So you see, that's why we get to 45 minutes, because of my long introductions all the time. So Bruno, tell us a bit about NPS performance the last 3 years.
Yes, we get a lot of questions here in Reviewpro from clients around how to read, how to interpret the NPS. In general terms, the NPS in the last analysis follows the same trend that the GRI does. It is the same, but you can see that there are small differences in terms of performance for the 3-star, or the 4-star, and the 5-star. So we said that the 3-star were growing quicker than the 5-star and the 4-star. So this is not true for the NPS. The NPS is a bit of a complex metric, is affected by multiple variables. It also depends where you put the questions, whether at the beginning or at the end of the survey. So it is affected by many variables. The trend is all in all positive, very positive, especially for the 5 stars, and in general for all the regions but Oceania. We need to remember that Oceania was coming out of their peak season, so probably a bit of a negative effect on that. But all in all, you see that the trend is more positive than it was in 2024. So the NPS is still growing, and it is growing to very high level. Remember that the baseline for the hotel industry is around 40. So having the 5-star hotels kind of sitting at 61.7 is impressive. So it's a testament to the, again, really good quality they're able to express on a daily basis, on a quarterly basis with their guests. And it's really nice to see. Again, like Asia, as well as for the GRI, is the best performing market in the world. So they have the highest score, a little lower for Europe again, but a very nice performance all in all. Again, lower again for Latin America, which is probably not in line with the GRI. They have been a bit kind of further behind compared to other markets. But then excellent performance for Middle East and again, North America, as well as for the GRI. Okay, a bit of a mixed bag for Oceania, but again, Oceania is following its own trend in terms of peak season. So this is being affected by that for sure. Very cool. I think still a very key metric. Obviously, I mean, we also ask everyone here, if you're a Reviewpro user, you know that twice a year we ask you for your NPS score for us as well. So it's something we analyze internally. I think all of the hotels here do. And I think it's part of every industry. So I wonder what the NPS trend is going to be in the next years. I get asked a lot, is this still a metric? You go to some webinars and you hear back and forth, don't really focus so much on the NPS. But right now, what we're still seeing is 95% of our customers are asking this in the surveys, and it's really that understanding. For me, Asia, I just wanted to say, you already mentioned it, but it's an unbelievable NPS all the time. I was for the first time in Thailand last year, so I can definitely understand where this NPS comes from, because unbelievable service and hospitality there. Definitely. So, great. I think this is our very last slide. So let's talk a little bit about what everyone is, everyone's always saying, do I have a high conversion rate? Do I have a low one? How can I improve it? How can we get more, survey responses? So
we're going to compare, just to let everyone know, Q2. How did we perform in Q2 versus the average of all of last year, right, Bruno? And what did we see
Yes,
there?
yes. As well as for the other metrics, the conversion rate is influenced by seasonality in Europe, in North America, and other key markets. And of course, if we compare the yearly edition of the report, we had the conversion rate for the post-day sitting at 14%, which is a good performance, given that we consider a 50% like the normal threshold in order to be able to extract valuable, actionable insights from the survey. But what really matters here is also the fact that the hotel were replying in 5.6 days just 1 year ago, and now they have been able to go down to 3 days, exactly in line to what you see for the review. So again, an impressive work in terms of ability to reply to surveys quicker in order to thank the guests for the time that they spent. And in terms of time, you also see that there is an effect of the length of the survey. So the longer the survey, the less the willingness the guest will have to complete it. So that is an important metric, and our tool is also able to provide you with that feedback, which is crucial in order to have a higher conversion rate. If we compare Q1, Q2 of 2025, we see that the conversion rate all in all went a little down. Now we are hovering around 11.4%, which is still something in line with the seasonality. Probably we go a little up for Q3 as compared to what review does, the review do. And there are several differences in terms of survey responses when it comes to regions, because North America and Asia have a far lower conversion rate, whilst Europe, Middle East, and Latin America far higher. So this is to take into account wherever you are. There are regional differences, so it is expected to have a lower conversion rate in some regions of the world and higher conversion rate in some others. What we all have to do is try and maximize this conversion rate, whichever way we want, because it is gold in terms of data that you can use in order to understand every aspect of the guest journey, and so improve quicker in terms of overall score, and at the end of the day, of course, in terms of GRI, because that will surely reflect to the GRI at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think we were talking about it yesterday, right? NPS with Global Review Index, it usually moves in the same direction.
Yeah.
Something you said that I really want to reiterate again, because I think you make a great point. If you are using Reviewpro, don't forget, and you have our surveys, don't forget about this survey, the guest behavior page. This is the one Bruno is talking about, where it's new from last year, but I think it is not utilized to the full potential yet. Of the clients that we've seen actually leverage this page have made huge improvements to their survey. Now with our newest functionality called Skip Question as well, where you can make the survey shorter or longer if you want to collect different, type of feedback. So please take time to go into the survey behavior page if you're an admin of your account, because it tells you, like Bruno was saying, the completion time. If your survey is taking 10 minutes to complete, that might be a problem of why there's a big drop-off rate. And what is my favorite part of that page is what's called top dropped questions, right? Where are your guests dropping on your survey along the way? And what can you learn from that, and what changes can you make? So yeah, I think that's a great slide to end on. I think we have some questions. Right. During the questions, I'm going to leave this slide up, because if you don't have the full report yet, you can dig more into your region, into certain, aspects of what we talked about. So I was told by marketing that if you scan this QR code, you can download the report. So please do so. And let's look at some questions. Let's see if, yes, perfect. How can I look at the full question? Okay. Because my bar is here. Conrad, hello, Conrad. Good morning. And Bruno, thank you so much again for all your insights. I want to say a huge thank you as well before we go into the questions. Super interesting.
My pleasure.
I still get excited even during the webinar after having prepared it with you many times. Conrad, Are we seeing more reviews being left with written feedback? My thought is that guests are using AI to help them write reviews. I think this is really a great question, Conrad, and it just
Very
came up
nice
at our
question.
booking.com webinar.
Yes.
And Bruno, I'll let you answer as well. But, well, actually, Bruno, you're the one that helped me get that statistic last
Yeah.
time. We
Yeah,
have
yeah.
not seen it decline with text and without text. We've actually seen it become more with text, Conrad. But what I had not connected is it could be that guests are using AI, but
It could be,
that would be
yes.
interesting. I'm very curious. I have not used AI to leave a review. I feel like it's something I want to, it's my experience, and I don't need to feel like I need to impress the hotel as much as maybe the hotel wants to use AI to reply. But I'm curious about that. But yes, to answer Conrad, we are seeing more volume with feedback than without. So not just
Yeah.
scores, which, yeah.
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
Great. Do we have another question that we can pop on the screen? Susanna. Hello, Susanna. I'm concerned about customer threats when we don't fulfill their requests. For example, avoiding payment for non-refundable reservations with Google. We've encountered the issue that it doesn't delete reviews. What do you recommend we respond? Yeah. Bruno, do you have anything for this, or do you want me to go from it from operational?
No, if you want to go, then I will add my 2 cents.
Okay, perfect. Susanna, I always think that a response is an opportunity, right? For everything. Obviously, these are the awkward reviews. These are the negative ones that we don't always want to address. But if these are your policies, you can write that in a professional way. And actually, I think other guests will understand the way you write it is, okay, the guest is maybe upset because they didn't want to pay for a non-refundable reservation, but this is the policy that they knew when they were booking the reservation. This is not about the experience of staying at the hotel. This is not about the service. So I think don't ignore those, address those. First, good answer, explain your policy and say, sorry if it was unclear somewhere along the reservation process. You can even say, we might look again at how we can, make this even clearer, but in order to offer better rates sometimes, we do need to set these policies in place for you to enjoy better rates, something like this, because I really think each response is an opportunity for a marketing positive twist. Bruno, anything to add there?
No, I'm absolutely in line with what you said. We need to remember that we have to be as clear as possible when replying and as honest as possible, detailing what the policies are, and also remember that we can use these to turn things around with the next guest and make sure that we can set the right expectation by being clear and honest with what happened, and make sure that the prospect that are looking at those reviews will understand that we did everything in order to make sure that the guest was happy, and then the policies were clear from the get-go. So I'm in line with what you said, absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Susanna. Hope that answered. Let me know in the chat. If not, I know you're very close with our customer success team, so we can keep talking about those examples. Can we get the next one up there? Yeah. Stella, hello, Stella. Do any hotels or brands include a "how did you hear about us" question? I love this question, Stella.
Many.
Because it really, really depends on various things. And I'm going to go here with my most important answer is, what can you provide us from your PMS when you send us your guest information? Because what I want to say is, if you can avoid asking guests questions of things you might already have information for in your PMS, then it is better to get straight to the questions that will add value to the guest experience and to give you feedback about their actual stay. Obviously, every PMS is different. We have customers that send us the very basic arrival and departure date and email, and that's it, maybe a room number. But then we have customers that send us room type, room number, number of adults, number of kids, booking type. Did they book online versus phone? So it really, really depends. If you can get it in your PMS, great, because you don't need to ask it. And Stella, I'm always going to go back to, what will you do with the data of the response? If you will be able to take action from it, if it will really make improvements for your operation, absolutely, you can include it. We do see it in various surveys. But for me, I always go back to, I challenge the customers and say, what are you going to do with the data? If not, it's just an extra question, and it's just going to cause higher completion time, and drop off. So I don't know, Bruno, if you agree on that.
No, I agree. I agree with you. I agree with you. I understand that some of the clients may want to use this as a way of measuring the return on investment, whether they add a new website, they want to understand how well the website is working, or they are like any ads on Google, they want to measure that. It's really important sometimes to measure any new action that they are undertaking. And so many clients do, definitely, yes.
Exactly, Stella. And I think you put in the chat, it's more related for the marketing decision. Exactly. That's why I'm saying. And sometimes, Stella, you can only do the question for 6 months, you know? With our dynamic survey setup, you can hide and show questions and still have historical data after you hide it. So let's say you don't want to keep that question in forever, but maybe you want to give marketing 1 year of data or 6 months of data. You can add that question and remove it. So I think that's another idea. Maybe one more question, two more. Let's see. I don't know if everyone is still very engaged. Another one from Conrad. Okay, Conrad. Have you seen the importance of cleanliness to impact a satisfying stay decline post-pandemic? Maybe you, Bruno, can answer more. Did cleanliness have more of an impact after than before pandemic? I mean, I would say yes.
Actually, it went up. It went up right after the pandemic because of the short staffing issue that we had all around the world. And then it went a little down in terms of sheer impact on the GRI, because then the problem was cracked, and that was positively impacting the cleanliness issue. But yes, that was the trend. Actually, it went up and then down, a little down, yes.
And Conrad, I think everyone got a bit pickier after the pandemic. We can all be honest, right? Thinking of myself as a traveler, everyone in the room, maybe not so much, or myself, 5 years later, I'm like kind of getting over the whole thing 4 years later. But I think at the beginning, definitely. So I'm curious to see if it's still going to have, but it's still the highest. I would say room and cleanliness, since I've worked here for 5 years, it's always been the two categories most impacting GRI.
Absolutely. Yes. They have
around the world. So if you see that for your hotel and you're like, but we're doing so many efforts for cleanliness and we're doing this and that, think about it. No matter what we are going to do during our travels, what we're most going to judge is the room and the cleanliness. That's what we're paying for. At the end, you're paying for the bed. Everything else is an extra, the experience, the service, everything we want to provide in hospitality. But at the end, they're putting their head down on the bed, they're spending the night, and they're really going to value the cleanliness of the place.
Absolutely.
So if everyone's okay, we'll do one more. Marketing, I'll let you decide your absolute favorite one. And then we will wrap it up because I don't want to take too much more time. Wildan, is there any declining numbers of survey responded rate? I think that's the conversion rates, right? What does that look like over the last 5 years, Bruno?
It went a little down because we were probably above 15% 3 years ago, and then we went down last year to 14%. So not a huge drop, but just like a small drop. And then it is going down in 2025, but we need to understand that there are, again, seasonality involved in that, and probably we need to wait until the end of the year to really understand whether there is a declining trend, an ongoing declining trend, or just like some fluctuation around the 15% threshold that is the normal one that we saw in the past years.
Perfect. Sorry, I'm just going through the chat now because marketing was helping me, but I want to wrap up, but I see some very interesting things. So I'm going to pull the chat after. Maybe we can reach out to specific people if anything interesting.
Sure.
If you are a customer, please talk to your customer success manager about this. If you're not a customer of Reviewpro and you want to know more, maybe marketing, I don't know if you can put in the chat our LinkedIn's, Bruno and mine, or my email address, just to get more information. But something, Amanda Porter, I just want to point out your comment. Bruno, maybe we can make a note for the next future benchmark report, but I love this. What is the average survey completed time globally? I think that would be super interesting to know.
It is around 5 minutes, 50 seconds. So this is around,
okay, Amanda, there you go. So 5 minutes, 50 seconds.
This is the value, which is a good average in terms of ability to extract actionable insight and not having a too long survey that will surely dent the conversion rate. So this is probably, it is moving around this 5 minute 30, 5 minute 50, 5 minute 10 seconds in the past 2 years. This is the data that I have in mind right now.
I think that's really cool. And maybe in the future, I can't promise anything, it's Bruno's project. But maybe that would be cool to also break down by hotel types because Amanda, I loved the question, but I know that, for example, I myself as a customer success manager in the past was dealing with resorts in Mexico with over 50 questions in the survey. And then there's hotels that are business with 8 questions, right? So I think it's good to have an average completion time, but it would be nice to see it broken down by business cities versus resorts because you might think, oh my God, mine is 9 minutes, but you might be this big resort in Tahiti and we're looking at an average of more business hotels and so on. So anyway, 50 minutes. Thank you so much for staying 20 extra. I hope it was interesting and valuable to everyone. Please feel free to add us on LinkedIn and message me, email me, message me on LinkedIn if you want to know more, whether you're a customer or not. And hope this was good for everyone because we kind of want to bring these back quarterly. So I hope it was valuable. You can share this recording that you're going to receive with your team members, with anyone you wish. And let's see what Q3 brings. So probably in October, we'll get together again and we can compare with Q2. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone. Please reach out if you need anything in the meantime and see you for the next webinar. Thank you, Bruno, once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.